How's it going, everyone? It's that Blue Abarth here, and welcome back to the channel and another video. Now for today, I'm going to be talking to you about why I think the Abarth 595 is such a great daily. Now I know there's quite a lot of things that go into making a great daily driver, but don't worry, I'm going to go over every single feature and aspect of the car and tell you why I think it's such a great car for day-to-day use. Now I'll be going over the boot, the size of the car, the exterior, the interior, the space, everything that you would want to know. Now I did make a video like this in the past, but just like a few other videos, I wasn't very happy with it, mainly because at the time I hadn't had the car for very long, meaning I couldn't really give a proper in-depth review and good opinions on the car and why I thought it was so good. But now that I've had it for around 2-ish years now, I've got quite a lot of time and usage under my belt, and I think I can now give some proper actual opinions and reviews on the car itself and, well, tell you if it's any good or not for day-to-day use. And let me tell you, I definitely think it is. But of course, you'll want some evidence and some proof onto why I think it is. And how about we get started? And I think the best place to go first is the boot. And let me tell you, you'll be very surprised on how much this car can actually store. So, I'll meet you around the back. So then everyone, here we are at the boot, and we're not going to waste any time today, guys. We're going to get straight into it. Now, as you can see, I can fit in the boot pretty well, which gives you an indication into how big this boot actually is. And you'd be very surprised because of the size of the car. And a lot of people think that because this car is so small, it can't fit anything in its boot. Well, that is where you're wrong. Let me hop out and show you the boot in a little bit more detail. So, like you've just seen, I was able to fit in the boot pretty well and pretty easily too. There's not a lot of boots that you can just hop in and make yourself comfortable. Which is the thing, that's the great thing about this car. Because of its size and because of the shape of it, it means that you can get a lot of weird, wacky and big items within it. And actually, you can get them in pretty easily and pretty well. Now of course with the bigger items you will have to fight them a bit and you will have to adjust them and get them in at the right angle for them to fit, but you'll find that a lot of the time they fit in pretty easily, pretty well and quite snug too, and you'll still have a bit of room to work with as well. Which is why I love this car and its boot, because it's just so practical. I'll give you a small little list of the things that we've had in here so far. We have had audio/hi-fi setups, I mean the whole lot. Speakers, turntables, amps, everything that you can think of that's hi-fi related, we've had in the back of it. It was like a whole club in the back of this boot at one point. It was crazy. We've also had bin bags full of rubbish to go to the tip, wooden planks, plants, tables, antique drawers, and probably the weirdest out of the lot, 32 buckets. Now that might seem like a very strange one, and you might be a little bit hesitant to that, or you might not believe me, but hey, if you check out this video right here, you'll see that we were able to get 32 buckets into this little car right here. And it was a wacky, pretty strange, but very successful video, and I had a lot of fun filming it. So hey, give that a little watch and see what you think, because if you need to transport 32 buckets in this car, you'll have to watch that video, because you'll find it's actually doable. You can achieve that very strange task. But as for your normal day-to-day items such as equipment, tools, or even shopping bags, this boot is excellent for all of it. I've done quite a few shopping trips in this car, and you can find that you can fit up to maybe 7 or 8 bags full of groceries and different items in the boot. And like I said, for the other items, they fit in quite snug. So if you want to use this car for daily activities, then go ahead, because the boot is excellent. Of course, you can take the parcel shelf out and put the seats down for extra space too, but you'll find that even with the seats up, you can get all of your normal day-to-day items in the back of it. But of course, for the bigger items, seats down, parcel shelf out, you're all good, you're golden. And well, talking about size and the shape of the car, how about we go to the side and actually chat about that? So, it's time to chat about the size of the car. And well, it's actually just right. It's not too small and it's not too big either, which makes it really good for day-to-day usage. And you'll find that a lot of people nowadays are buying smaller cars like hatchbacks and super minis because they're easier to drive and easier to live with, especially when it comes to parking. I mean, parking this thing It's such a joy. Sometimes, even if you make a little mistake and think you're not parked in the lines properly, you step out and you're actually still in the lines. Even if you're at an angle, you're still well within them, which is just great. Which is why I love driving cars like this, because parking them is just a joy and makes life so much easier. It takes that difficulty away from driving and makes it less of a task and more enjoyable, especially if it's a performance hatchback. It gives a little bit more pleasure into driving as well, especially if you're just doing a short trip. It's just so much more fun, especially when you don't have to stress about if you can fit in a certain area or parking space, because then it just doesn't make driving any fun. And well, that's why these cars reign supreme in areas like Monaco or tight cities and towns, because driving them is just great. You don't have to stress and worry about getting into tight areas and spaces, which is why I recommend going for the Abarth 595, because it's perfectly shaped and the size of it is really, really good. Now that we've talked about the size of the car, it's time to go on to the interior and chat about all the space and some other bits and bobs as well. Because if you're using this for day-to-day usage, then the driver's seat, passenger seat, or even the back seats is where you're going to be spending most of your time. So I'll meet you on the inside. So you join me on the interior of the Abarth 595, and it's time to chat about one of the most important factors for the inside of the car, and that's space, and also comfiness, because you want to be comfy inside the car, otherwise you won't enjoy driving it. Now we'll start with space, because it's all good talking about equipment, bits and bobs and the quality, but you want to know, is there enough space for myself and my passengers? And well, I'm here to tell you, absolutely. Now, I'm 6 foot, 19 years old, and I fit in this car really well. I fit in the boot pretty well too. So that gives you an indication onto how much room there actually is on the interior. And well, my dad is 6'3", he's got big arms, big shoulders, and he also fits in the car really well too. He says that the seat is really nice and comfy, and he has no issues with it. So that's really, really good. So if you've got adults in the car, then that's fine. They're going to fit in this car really well and be comfy too. But what about space between you and the passenger? Because of course, that's something that sometimes is a bit of an issue with cars, especially small cars like smart cars, or I'm trying to think of something else here, like Ford KAs, stuff like that. Just really small hatchbacks. You can sometimes find that you're quite close to your passenger. Now, this car is small, there's no doubt about it, but space on the interior is surprisingly really good. When my dad sat next to me, we're not touching arms, and I still have enough space to shift gears without hitting him or his arm or anything like that. So there's a lot of space between you and the person sat next to you, which is fantastic. It means that you can drive the car, you can be comfy, and you don't have to faff about with trying to reach the gear stick or hit the person sitting next to you, all that type of stuff. So that's great. It means you can drive a small car whilst not having to fuss around and, you know, just be uncomfortable. And talking of being comfy, the seat. Now, a lot of cars will have different seats and they will have different materials that they use as well, which can sometimes either make or break the actual seat itself. Now, when it comes to these cloth seats, these are the stock ones that you get in the 145 and the Turismo as well, but the Turismo will have leather variants of these seats instead of the cloth ones. I think you still can get the cloth ones in the Turismo, but a lot of the time it will be the leather ones. But let me tell you, these seats are so nice to sit in, especially on long trips and journeys as well. You'll find that you don't get any backache, you're still comfy, and there's no problems at all. You get out of the car after that journey and you still feel fine. You feel like how you did when you first stepped in the car. So they are really, really nice seats to sit in. Of course, you do have to put your head back quite a bit to actually rest on it, but in terms of actually sitting in the seat itself, it's really nice and it's really, really comfy. And that's the main thing, really. You want to be comfy while you're driving, otherwise you won't enjoy it. You'll start getting pains in like your legs or your back or your chest, stuff like that. And it just won't be any fun and it won't be good. And well, that's the main thing really. A lot of cars seem to have quite uncomfortable seats. Take for example the Vauxhall Insignia VXR line, and maybe the VXR itself, they have bucket seats. And actually, no, that's the same for a lot of bucket seats. They can be very uncomfortable, which is why I'm reluctant on getting Sabelts or purchasing an Abarth with Sabelt seats, because I feel as if they might get quite a bit uncomfortable after a while of using them, and I might generate some back pains, which is not what you want really, especially when you're living your life. You don't want to walk around having to hold your back going, oh man, my back sucks today, bro. I cannot sit in another bucket seat, because you don't want to live life knowing that you can't sit in a bucket seat. Bucket seats are awesome. So occasionally sitting in them is fine, but I feel like sitting in them every single day, it might get a little bit of a pain, literally as well. So these seats are the ones I recommend, and if you buy a 145 or any Abarth with these seats, then they're going to be a-okay. You're going to be absolutely comfy and nice in the chair. And like I said, if you've got adults in the car, they're also going to be really comfy in the seat. My dad's been in this car many, many times, and he says it's really nice, and they hug you properly, and overall, 10 out of 10 for the seats. Now, what about the passengers in the back? Will they be able to be comfy as well? Of course, they will be a lot closer. And hey, I suppose, instead of talking about it, how about I sit in the back seat and show you what's going on? Well then, this is weird. I've never been in the back seats for a video, but here we are. Now, as you can see, it's not too bad in the back here. I mean, it is a little bit more cramped than it is in the front, and you definitely will be a lot closer to your passenger in the back seats. But if you're just here on your own, you've got quite a lot of room, and it's not too bad. Now, the headrests are down at the moment because obviously the seats were down, but if they were up, they are quite comfy. I mean, actually, I'll show you them right now. So literally, you just push them up and that's fine. And that's not too bad, I think. I mean, this is actually the first time I've sat in the back seats, so I'm giving you probably an honest opinion right now of it. But they're quite nice. They're just like the front seats. They're comfy. The material is nice and soft, so your back is all good. And the headrest, it's a little bit lower than I'd like it, but I think, yeah, that is the maximum it goes up. But it's not too bad, especially when you've got your head on it. It's all right. If you've got smaller people in the car, I imagine it's a lot better for them, but it's all right in the back here. It's not too bad at all. And oh, sorry guys, M135i, I love the sound of those things. But yeah, back onto the Abarth. But yeah, so back seats, not too bad at all. And I can get the, that ain't my seatbelt. This is my seatbelt. If I put it on here, not too bad at all. Easy to do. And there we go, all good. I'm strapped in with my Abarth seatbelt pad right here. Very nice indeed. I recommend you guys getting one of these. But yeah, it's very comfy in the back here. So if you're using this car day to day and you want to, you know, take passengers around, say if it's a family trip or, you know, going down to the shopping centre, anything like that, town, you can get passengers in the back here and they will be comfy. Actually, headroom. What about the headroom at the back? It's quite, you know, obviously it starts to swoop down into the boot and all that. So obviously there's a little bit less headroom, but again, 6 foot, I still have some room and I don't scrape across the roof or anything like that. My head doesn't touch it. I actually have to raise myself in order to hit it. So there is quite a lot of headroom in this car. So if you have tall passengers, a-okay, no problem at all. So that's all good. And well, that is pretty much it for the seats and the interior and the amount of space you have. I think now, pretty much, it's time to go over one last thing on the exterior, and that will pretty much be it. We'll talk about the driving as well too, can't forget that. But I'll try and get out of here. I'll meet you outside when I've figured a way to get out the interior. I'll see you in a second. So, it's time to chat about the exhaust. And well, if you're going to use this car every single day, you're going to be hearing a lot of that. Now, with this being an Abarth, it will obviously have a performance exhaust on it, as standard. And well, the stock exhaust is alright, it gives a bit of noise, it's not too loud, but for me and a lot of other Abarth enthusiasts, we junk it. We obviously put other exhausts on, like Akrapovics, Monzas, Magneti Morellis, Bombardones, because they all sound great, even straight pipes too. And the amount of noise that this creates, it's absolutely insane. Now, I've course, with a modified exhaust, it will give a bit more noise, but it's still all right. You can use it day to day, and it's not drony, it's not obnoxious, and still sounds fantastic. So if you want to modify this car's exhaust, but still use it every day, go for it, because it's absolutely fine. No drone, especially just on, like, you know, normal city streets. Even at 70 miles per hour on the motorway, cruising in 5th gear, there's not that much drone at all. Especially if you have the seats up, it's a lot better, but even with seats down, it's still all right. Now with the stock exhaust, you'll find there's no drone at all, and it's pretty much perfect. It's just your average car with a nice bit of spicy noise added to it. But you have a modified one, a bit noisier, a little bit more drone, but it's still bearable. So, definitely a 10 out of 10 for exhausts on this car, especially the selection. Bombardones and magnetes and all that stuff sound fantastic, but in terms of practicality and day-to-day, hearing it all the time, perfectly fine. And that leaves me with the last segment of this video, and that's driving the car. So I'll meet you somewhere, I guess, to chat about that. Now, with this being a sports car, it obviously comes with a sports mode, and it actually does something. It tightens up the steering, and it makes the throttle response even better. You definitely notice it when you're cruising along and you press the button, the car just wants to go, that's for sure. Now, with this having a sports mode, it's great. Even every day, just driving around town, sports mode is absolutely fine. I rarely use comfort mode actually, and even if you're trying to park up and stuff like that, sports mode is fine. But sports mode can be a little bit tricky while parking because the steering is a lot tighter than comfort mode. So if you want to park up and stuff like that, I recommend switching it back to comfort so you get a lot looser steering, so then it's a lot easier and you're not having to do as many turns and maneuvers to try and get in the spot. But as for driving the car in general, it's really good. The throttle response is fantastic, so you can move off perfectly, there's no lag, and it's great for around town. The steering, even in sport mode, is alright. Like I said, it's tight, but it's still pretty good to get you here and there. And the suspension is probably the only thing that I'd comment on that's not that good, because obviously it's bumpy, it's sports suspension, so it's going to be a little bit of a harsh ride, but still, I think it's alright. After having this car for about 2-ish years, I've gotten over it, I've gotten used to it, and it's fine. UK roads are horrible, so that doesn't help, but I mean, I don't think it's that bad. If you've got nice roads like in France and places like that, then you won't notice it at all, but it can be a bit bumpy. But apart from that, driving the car is such a joy. Now, what about fuel and how far can you get on one tank? Now, I would say about 300-ish miles is what you'd get out of a full tank, and I'd say about 30, 35, maximum 40 quid to fill it up. Now, I only put 25 quid in this car, sometimes even 20 quid, and you get a lot of the tank back, and you're good for like a few weeks actually. Now, depending on how you drive the car, will obviously, you know, you'll obviously see how much fuel you use depending on how you use it. There we go. That's what I was trying to say, but I messed up completely. So yeah, if you drive this car aggressively and fast, then the fuel will go down a lot faster. But if you drive this car slowly and normally and just, you know, toodle it, then you'll have a lot more fuel left over. But it's hard. It's really hard in this car. You can't resist just having some fun in it. So, you know, the fuel goes down a little bit quicker, but I would say 3 weeks is what you get on one tank, and half a tank I'd say about 2 weeks. It's really weird how long a tank lasts in this car, and especially when it's so cheap to fill up, you're just always on the move with it, and you always have a nice amount of bars in the fuel. So it's perfect. As for MPG, I would say around town you get 40 to 45, and on the motorway about 60 MPG, which is about right. I'd say that's about average. So it's not too bad. In terms of fuel and MPG, 10 out of 10, that's for sure. And I think that's it, guys. It's time to outro the video and give my final thoughts and opinions, and well, tell you why it's so good. So that's everything for today's video, guys. We're going to wrap it up in here because it's definitely dropping a few degrees out there. Very cold. But yes, so I definitely recommend this car as a daily driver. It's great. It's practical, useful. The size is fantastic. I mean, you can fit down some narrow, tricky streets. The space inside the car and the boot is just fantastic, meaning all your items can go in the back and your passengers will be able to fit in this car really nicely. They'll have enough room, they'll be comfy, it's a win-win situation, and everything from just driving the car to parking it up as well is just 10 out of 10. Especially, you know, like I said, parking it is just such a joy. It takes the difficulty away from driving, makes it less of a task and more just enjoyable to do. It just brings a bit more pleasure into driving, especially knowing that a lot of the tasks that are usually included in driving, like parking and going down tight roads, it's just taken away because this car is small, fits anywhere, and it's just so easy to drive. So I definitely recommend this car to you guys, and just a hatchback in general, because they're really useful. They're a lot of fun, especially if they're the performance variant, and they're just great. From everything to space, comfort, luxury in some cases, depending on how high the spec of the car is, and just everything else. It's just a great time when using, driving, and having a hatchback, especially an Abarth 595. And well, that will wrap it up for today's video, guys. I really hoped you enjoyed it. I hoped I was able to give you all the information you would have wanted and needed into answering the question, is this car a good daily driver? Because yes it is. And well, if you want more content like this, guys, anything at all, you know what to do. Hit that bell, like, comment, and subscribe, because it's always appreciated. And well, who knows what's going to happen in the next video. Got a few plans, but we'll see what happens. But for now, I'll see you in the future, guys. Have a good one.